All right, you ready?
I'm ready.
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.
Don't you understand, George? It's because you were not born.
Film church.
Well, a boy's best friend is his mother.
Your sacrifice completes my sanctuary of 1,000 testicles.
I wasn't sure how long I could keep that going before I started laughing. Hello, and welcome to Film Church Radio. You've made it. It's the podcast that treats cinema as a religion. It's Sunday. I'm Branden.
I'm the alchemist.
And we are here to talk about movies. Each week, Lewis and I alternate picking a film for us both to watch and discuss. And today, I picked the film The Holy Mountain from 1973. Of course, if you want to know what we're watching and talking about next Sunday, be sure to listen to the end of the episode where Lewis is going to reveal what the film is. Here at Film Church Radio, we talk about reaching cinematic enlightenment a lot. This film is... it kind of encompasses that completely, I feel, maybe for the first time ever on Film Church Radio. This is our first time watching this film, and it is a lot to process. I know that there's a huge cult following out there for this film, and it means a lot to a lot of people. And if you're one of those people, please send us a message on our Spotify or our YouTube or any of our social medias out there at Film Church Radio and tell us what your experience is with this film, because I'd really like to know. But we're going to get into this film more later. First, we would like to say thank you to those who have been listening and have been sending us messages, especially on TikTok, man. There's lots of conversations going on our TikTok right now. I'm like, wow, this was the place I did not expect to be engaging in a lot of film conversations. But hop over to Film Church Radio's TikTok account and engage in some of these conversations going on in our comment sections. It's interesting. Of course, we have all of our back episodes listening on all good podcast platforms, so please share us, give us a rating and review. We'd much appreciate it. Kind of got lost in what all this stuff is that I was saying, but basically I'm just trying to say thank you for being a part of Film Church. We love that you guys are here and that you guys are listening. It means a lot to us, and we love creating the show, and we want to keep creating it and keep getting bigger and better and making cooler episodes and having more guests and all of that stuff. So please share it. And also let us know who should be on the show. Who should we be getting to guest on the show? On our Spotify right now, we just recently did a Stanley Kubrick retrospective, which was a lot of fun. There's like 13 of those episodes. And on the Eyes Wide Shut episode, there is a poll where you can let us know what your favorite Stanley Kubrick movie is. Right now, it is still a tie. We've had more votes since the last time, but the votes ended up still being a tie. So right now it's a tie between 2001. No, this isn't right. It's a tie between 2001, The Shining, and I think Full Metal Jacket, right?
Yeah, I think so. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was Dr. Strangelove before, but not anymore. So if you have a favorite Kubrick film, please go vote on our poll on the Eyes Wide Shut episode on Spotify. Enough of me talking. Let's sing some praises to some movies, Lewis. This is the section where we sing praises to movies, other movies that we've been watching this week other than the main feature that we're talking about later. And then we'll get to that soon. But Lewis, what have you been watching? What do you need to praise?
Yeah, I'm going to praise some films very highly here, Brandon. It's been a good week. I love it when I can like pull 3 films that I've watched that I'm like, I cannot wait to talk about these. And this is one of those weeks. So the first film I watched, I've been reading a lot as usual about cinema, and I just read From Caligari to Hitler, the book that details the German film industry between the wars and kind of how it shows like people's reaction to what was happening and, you know, Hitler's rise to power, I guess.
Yeah.
And obviously with a title like that, it dedicates a lot of its time to the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari from 1920. So I rewatched it. It's been a few years since I watched it, managed to put it back in again. And I do feel like it set me up pretty well for this film. Not in terms of like out there craziness, but just in terms of the fact that what you're seeing is very staged.
Right.
And kind of it's not real. You know, it's kind of like painted backdrops and the German expressionism of like buildings going to a peak and things not quite looking right. But it just works, you know.
Yeah.
The film itself is a little bit more linear than this. But you just don't, it's not like, oh, that's weird. It just fits, you know, and it's such a interesting film. To, you know, the period that it came out of and what it was trying to say and, you know, the performances and everything. It's such a staple of film history. And I love going back to it and just being like, I cannot believe this was made over 100 years ago.
Yeah.
It blows my mind.
Yeah.
And it's such a early point of cinema as well. It's like, it's just incredible how, you know, certain people just ran with the medium and were like, I'm just going to put this that's no one's ever going to think about. I'm just going to do it.
Yeah.
It's an incredible piece of film art. So I obviously gave it 5 out of 5.
Yeah. That's this one that I've actually never watched the whole thing. And maybe we should pick it for Film Church at some point.
Yeah.
So you can really dive into your love for it and what it means to cinema history and all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fantastic. We'll have to watch it at some point.
Yeah.
It's really good. And when I bought the Blu-ray, it spawned one of my favorite quotes from my sister. I was like, oh, it's a German silent film. And she said, how do you know it's German if it's silent? Which I was like, I understand where you're coming from.
That's amazing.
The other book that I've been reading is The Five Came Back, which is also a documentary on Netflix, which we've talked about pretty recently.
Yeah.
You know, detailing John Ford, Frank Capra, these people that went off to war. But the unlikely hero for me was George Stevens, who was a director that like I was aware of. I'd seen, you know, the big films that he'd made, Giant, Place in the Sun, I really, really love with Montgomery Clift and Elizabeth Taylor, and Swing Time, like an early Fred Astaire kind of musical. Okay. Never really kind of delved into him as a filmmaker very much. And the book talks a lot about the last film he made before he went off to document the war, and it was The More the Merrier from 1943. So I tracked it down and put it on, and it is really, really good.
Yeah.
It was like so it's Jean Arthur and Joel McCrae, and she in Washington DC, like the war's going on, and it's just so packed there that nobody can find a room, and all the men are off to war, so there's not many men. So it's kind of full of like this sexual tension between everyone. And she ends up sharing an apartment with Joel McCrae. And it's just a bit, you know, it's like a slapstick comedy kind of screwball thing. But it's really funny. It's really sweet. It's really well made. You know, the apartment has got like a very kind of set feel to it. And we go out the window and kind of come in, you know, it's great. I just had it was just like one of those nights where you just put it on and I was like, I'm having such a good time with this.
Nice.
So I am going to be watching a lot more George Stevens stuff in the future. And I recommend everyone to definitely go and check out A Place in the Sun.
Okay.
Because it's really good.
Yeah.
Um,
Sweet.
So I watched The More the Merrier from 1943. And Jean Arthur's an actress that I've never really liked that much.
Yeah.
But she's really grown on me.
Yeah.
She's in, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. Shane, Billy Wilder's A Foreign Affair. But recently I've been like, maybe this is someone I should pay more attention to.
Yeah. I need to watch Shane. I just added it to my watch list.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I've heard lots about that movie.
Yeah, it's good. And the last one that I watched was Shooting Stars from 1928, another silent film. This is a British production. I think it's the first film directed by Anthony Asquith, who was a big British film director. Something that I've had on Blu-ray for a long time and just kind of dug out and was like, I've never watched this, I'm going to give it a go. And it's kind of set in a British film studio, so there's a lot of like behind the scenes
that's cool
stuff in there, which I feel like in the silent era, kind of because it was so new, there were like there's Buster Keaton shorts and Charlie Chaplin shorts that have like that are set in film studios,
right?
And like kind of like behind the scenes and stuff. But it's a bit more noirish. There's like a lead actress and a lead actor, and they're married, but she's fallen in love with like the Charlie Chaplin-esque clown.
Yeah.
And there's like an affair going on and basically, but then it's like tinged with all these things that are really going on in the British film industry. Like people are leaving to go to America, and there's like a big, who's going to be like here to carry on the British film industry.
Yeah.
And there's like behind the scenes stuff of, okay, this is how we film this shot, for example. And it's just really fun. And I had a really good time with it. Again, I keep saying that I had a really good time with it, but I did. It was good. I gave it 4 stars. It's just, it continuously makes you guess where it's going next.
Yeah.
Which I like. And to say that it was made in 1928, it zips along. And there's some really cool shots. Like there's, at the end, they're directing like a scene in a church, and it looks like a full church, like with like the roof and everything, and the camera kind of pans down, and you realize that it's just the pews, and the top is like a painted thing that's been like put on for the camera perspective. Lots of little things like that, where as like a lover of cinema, you're like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, Anthony Asquith is another one that I want to go back and watch a lot of. So Shooting Stars, 1928, it's good.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Man, the painting backdrops.
Yeah.
It's such a lost art, I feel like.
I know. Oh my God. And the painted movie posters. I feel like as soon as the paintbrushes went away, we lost something in film.
Yeah. True.
Yeah. Film Church Radio hot take.
Well, I have been watching much different movies than you have. I watched The Cable Guy, which has been on my list for a while. That is from 1996. Directed by Ben Stiller, starring Jim Carrey, Matthew Broderick, Leslie Mann, Jack Black, Andy Dick is in it. Owen Wilson is in it. This is like right after.
Wow.
Bottle Rocket. Yeah. I was like, what is this? I know this movie. We did it for Film Church. This is right after Bottle Rocket. So this is like Ben Stiller and Owen Wilson first working together. But it's like, it's not there yet as far as like what the duo that they became, because they're not in any scenes together. But I gave it 3 out of 5, and it's a good movie, and it's a good, like, I don't know if this is the first feature that Ben Stiller directed, but it's got to be close to it. But it's man, it's such a different comedy, like or like this era of comedy is like so of its time.
Yeah,
and like Jim Carrey is like, obviously he's an incredible actor.
Yeah,
an incredible comedian. So physical, and this is like the height of that. I feel like his career, as he went on, he he didn't necessarily tone it down, but like he just explored other ranges of his abilities, I think.
Yeah.
And this is like full on weird Jim Carrey in the best way. You know what I mean? It is so over the top. Oh, you've seen it. It says you've seen it.
I have seen it.
Yeah.
I owned it on DVD when I was younger.
Oh, nice. So did you used to love this movie?
I haven't watched it for such a long time.
Yeah.
But I really went through like a Jim Carrey phase where like I wanted to watch everything he'd done. And this was part of it. And obviously, you know, fans of the show will know that we have an affinity with Matthew Broderick for some reason. He kind of pops up in our film watching career every now and again.
Yeah.
The signs were there.
It was interesting to see like him, like Jim Carrey in scenes with Jack Black, because Jack Black is not really like the Jack Black we know and love yet.
Yeah.
He's really young in this. But I wonder how much Jim Carrey kind of influenced Jack Black's acting ability, because Jack Black definitely leans more in this direction of what Jim Carrey is doing here later in his career. Jack Black's amazing.
Yes,
we all know this. But it was good to tick off. Like, I'm a big Ben Stiller fan, and I would like to watch all of his films as a director. You know, so it was good to tick it off. But probably not one I'll go back to. You know.
Yeah.
I'd rather watch more Zoolander or Tropic Thunder.
Yeah.
Rewatch Spider-Verse. Incredible movie. We all know this. Hopefully Lewis and I will be doing the sequel Into the Spider-Verse for Film Church Radio.
Yeah.
As listeners, as deep fans may know, the longest episode we've done was on Spider-Man No Way Home. So we're big spider heads.
Yeah.
Web heads. So I always want to talk about Spider-Man anytime there's any spider films out.
Yeah, and it's soon.
Yeah, it's very soon. Yeah. I'm excited. There's so many good things coming out soon. It's kind of crazy.
It's
yeah. I'm excited. I watched a movie called, it's sort of a movie. It's called K through 12. I was actually not sure if it was going to be on Letterboxd. But it's Melanie Martinez. She's a pop artist. And she, with her, I guess this came out in 2019, but she basically made an entire movie out of her album, like a music video movie.
Okay.
So it's got all of the songs from the album, but turned into like a movie musical, basically.
Oh, that's cool.
But a little bit different, obviously, than your typical musical.
Yeah.
But it's done super, super well. Like, visually is incredible. All the songs are amazing. It's saying a lot. Like, it's an hour and a half, and it's very dense. Like, obviously, every song is about, like, a different theme, and there's, like, crossovers, like a thread and stuff. And it's one that I would like to watch a few more times, because I feel like there's like so much being said in the film that it's hard to catch everything the first time you watch it. But visually, it's incredible. I mean, like the costume and set design kind of rivals Wes Anderson in some ways. Like, stunning. And she's a great artist. Like, I like her music a lot. So I would definitely recommend it. And then we watched Barry Lyndon right after that, and it was kind of an interesting back-to-back watch, because I feel like Barry Lyndon also says a lot, but stretched over 3 hours, so it's a little more digestible. Yeah. And I ended up bumping it up to 5 stars, because like this is such a fun movie. Like, I don't know, this is good.
And I think that's a lot of like the reaction of a lot of people. Like we said on the show, there's a lot of people that I've seen online that have said that Barry Lyndon is one of their favorite films ever made.
Yeah.
And I think that maybe in the next 10 to 15 years, it will start to, encroach on The Shining in 2001 as like the greatest film he ever made.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe. I mean, Richard Linklater was talking about it recently in an interview I heard with him, and Yeah, it's like the first time you watch it, it's like you're getting the story. You're trying to figure out, okay, well, where is he going next? What is he doing next? What's the point of it all? And you get to the end, and you're like, oh, cool. You know, it didn't necessarily have a point. I mean, it kind of did, but like, it's one of those movies that when you watch it, like second viewings, like repeat viewings, you kind of just enjoy all the different moments.
Yeah.
More because you're not trying to figure it out.
Yeah, you pay attention to the little things.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah. But yeah, that was it for me. That's all.
Awesome.
Okay.
Have you seen? Sorry, that Woody Harrelson has confirmed
yes.
that McConaughey might be his biological brother.
Yes.
What the fuck?
I know. He said that. Yeah. He said he's trying to get McConaughey to take a DNA test, but he's like terrified because he doesn't want to find out his dad is not his real dad.
Oh my god.
Isn't that fucking crazy?
That's insane. That's insane.
Like, yeah, apparently Harrelson was like hanging out with his mom, with Matthew McConaughey's mom, and she's like, yeah, I knew your dad. And like, she very highly insinuated like how well she knew him. And it's like, what the fuck? Because I've read McConaughey's book, and like, you know, he was like pretty close with his dad. I mean, his dad was a tough dad.
Yeah.
You know, a very hard dude. But like, one of the things that I really appreciated about like the relationship that he had was like McConaughey was like going to school to be a lawyer, like going to college to be a lawyer, and his dad was paying for it. And he started hanging out with film people and really getting into film, and he like called up his dad and he was like, Dad, I don't think I want to be a lawyer. I think I want to do film. And his dad was like, well, don't half-ass it. I was like, that's cool. Because like the whole time, like throughout the story, he's building up like how rough his dad is.
Yeah.
Like how hardcore he is. And like you kind of expect, you know, more of a like, what the fuck kind of reaction.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just thought that was really cool. And his dad passed away like while he was working on Dazed and Confused. So he like never got to see like.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I feel like that happens all the time.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, fucking insane, dude. Like, what? Like if that's true, what a world.
Yeah.
What a fucking world.
No wonder they got so much chemistry on screen together.
Uh-huh. Wild. Have you watched Triangle of Sadness yet?
No.
You should watch it.
I know Woody Harrelson's in it.
Yeah. You should watch it.
Okay.
All right. Moving on. I think now it's time for our feature presentation. The Holy Mountain, 1973. A Mexican master leads a Christ figure and other disciples to a mountain of immortal wise men. The scandal of the 1973 Cannes Film Festival, writer-director Alejandro Jodorowsky, I think I said that right this time, flood of sacrilegious imagery and existential symbolism in the Holy Mountain is a spiritual quest for enlightenment, putting illusion against truth. The alchemist, played by Jodorowsky, assembles together a group of people from all walks of life to represent the planets in the solar system. The occult adept's intention is to put his recruits through strange mystical rites and divest them of their worldly baggage before embarking on a trip to Lotus Island. There, they ascend the holy mountain to displace the immortal gods who secretly rule the universe. I have no idea if that's accurate or not.
I was going to say, I feel like the reason that is so long and convoluted is because without that, I don't know what you could say about this movie. That's the plot. That's it. That's all of it.
Mm-hmm. Or is it? I don't know.
We're about to get into it.
Yeah. So this movie, I mean, like it kind of rivals Pink Flamingos in my mind as like, you know,
Yeah.
the filthiest film alive, like, or, it just like, but it's obviously doing something a lot different than Pink Flamingos in terms of what it's trying to say and express.
Yeah.
This movie, I watched it twice, okay, so far. And as I said at the beginning of the episode, this is Lewis and I's first time watching this film. So Correct. I feel like this is a film that on repeat viewings, you'll kind of have different experiences. Because this movie, it's saying a lot. It's saying a whole lot. Yeah. And the first time I watched it, it kind of felt like having a bad trip.
Yeah.
Just like going to a dark place, having a bad trip and being confused by everything and self-conscious about everything. But then on the second watch, I was like, well, the movie is kind of saying a lot of positive things. Like a lot of the quotes that I wrote down, like, are all very positive things. Like, trying to let go of the ego, trying to rid yourself of like worldly possessions and, holding on to physical desires and things like that,
Yeah.
And then the other stuff that's in it is very, the things that aren't necessarily like what you would say, this is positive. Like those things are like satirical or like they're putting up a mirror on society and saying, look how weird our world is. Obviously it's an exaggerated version of it, but like it's still accurately commenting on war and sex and the workplace and the rich versus poor and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, like I said, the movie's saying a whole lot. And it's a lot to watch.
Yeah, and I agree with that. The point about how much it's trying to say, and I think that the way it tells it is such a different way to what we're used to, in terms of all these things are dialed up to a point where where in your mind they're past. They seem to they seem to try to be saying more than what they're actually saying, if that makes sense. So you're constantly battling with what is this, what is that, and then when you boil it down, you're like, oh. It's like when we go in one of the planets, when you go into the workforce and he's got like 100 wives that are following him around that are pregnant. And like in your head, you're like, what is this meaning? Like, are there secret meanings behind the amount of people that are there? Like these, and I'm like, no, it's just commenting on like men's need to like have sex all the time. And like, and like the people that he employ, it's like the director at the office chasing the secretary around the desk. It's that just into a factory.
Yeah.
So there was so much in here that I just had to be like, whatever. Like, I'm just going to let this go. And I think that's when it changed. Like, the first 15 minutes, I was like, okay, that's Jesus. Okay, this is, like, he's covered in, like, bugs. I don't know what that means. Okay, there's a guy with no arms and no legs. Not got a clue what that means. Okay, there's some kids that have got their genitals painted green. Don't know what that means. And then at the point, I was just like, I've got to stop trying to figure this out. I've just got to watch it, let it wash over me, and then, like, feel like just, check my feelings throughout the film.
Yeah.
Just my emotional level to it. Mm-hmm. And it changed the film.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think watching it a second time was really good for me because, that first experience, I had the same kind of thing where I was like, oh, that's he's supposed to be Jesus right away because they put him up on like a little piece of wood and his arms are hanging off. This is before all the Christ figures and stuff like the crucifixes, the mold and all that. This is before that. And I was like, it's got to be Christ. Well, he also has like a flower in his hand, and they pull it out, and there's like a spot on his hand. And
Yeah.
that always makes me think of Christ, the
Yeah.
hole in the hand or whatever. So yeah, my first thought in that scene was like, I was like, oh, is this supposed to be like right after Christ was like resurrected? I thought maybe that was like the time period we were in, but it wasn't that at all. And yeah, it's like you can't. The first watch, you can't try to figure it out. You just kind of have to go through it.
Yeah.
And it made me think that, like, I described obviously already the film as like a bad trip or a good trip, but like it definitely, it's very psychedelic.
Yeah.
And a lot of people like talk about psychedelic drugs, and like there's a lot of people these days that are trying to use it as a form of therapy, and implement it into like there's a lot of studies going on where people are trying to microdose and like do things to like help people get through trauma, or like rewire their brains to basically work through trauma.
Yeah.
And it almost like, I guess I'm thinking in this way because we just watched Stanley Kubrick's movies, and I was thinking about the way that Stanley Kubrick created The Shining as a subliminal movie.
Yeah.
And I've been thinking about this a lot since we watched The Shining, because I've got more thoughts on it now. But you and Zach both said that you've seen The Shining a lot, and now when you watch it, you've just got like a smile on your face the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I wonder if maybe Kubrick did something there subliminally to where the more you watch it, it makes you smile.
Yeah.
And that's a whole nother episode. Maybe we could talk more about The Shining. But I've been thinking in terms of like the way that movies can do that, can do something psychological to you.
Yeah.
Not necessarily make you insane, but make you smile, or whatever.
Yeah.
And it made me think of like maybe this movie is a psychedelic. Like it like when I started looking at the movie, instead of like looking at it as, because I'm a filmmaker, and like one of the things that I've believed and said a lot in terms of like trying to work on things or critiquing movies is like, it's got to be entertaining. First and foremost, it has to be entertaining. But then I watched this movie and I'm like,
does it?
yeah, it's like, does it have to be entertaining? I mean, the movie held my attention, the whole time. So it's not like it didn't. So it entertained me, I guess, in terms of that. But like, it made me think of like, it just made me think about film in a different way. Like, because film can be so many different things. It can be entertainment. It can be art. It can be expressionism. But this feels like something I've never seen before. Like, it feels like a drug. It feels like a experience, like that you eat the mushroom and then you let your body go through it,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It feels like that on film, which I've never thought of film being able to do. I've thought of music that way.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite bands is System of a Down, and they're like psychedelic rock. You know?
Yeah.
But never a film. And so it's very, I don't know. It's like the first as I was watching it the first time, and then watching, and then afterwards reading about it and watching some interviews, I was like, man, there's a lot of people who are really into this movie.
Yeah.
And like Jodorowsky has a huge cult following. Like, there's a lot of filmmakers that have been influenced by him, and talk about him. And he's still alive. He's still making movies, like in his 90s. He's still doing stuff. He did an interview with Darren Aronofsky recently, and Aronofsky was referring to him as the maestro. And I'm kind of just rambling now, but like, I think that's the exciting thing to me about this film, is that it made me look at film differently.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think there's room for everything on the spectrum in terms of film. And that's kind of why I wanted to talk about Caligari at the beginning, is that it's not what we're necessarily used to, but that doesn't mean that it's bad. And film as a medium is so incredible because it can be used for so many different things.
Yeah.
It's not just one way to tell a story or to, get across what you're trying to say. And in terms of it being like a trip, I mean, it's like being strapped to someone and then jumping out of a plane. They're like, trust me, we're going to get to the bottom. It's probably going to be scary. It's going to be like, it's going to make you feel sick. It's going to, you're going to feel elated. You're going to feel excited, all these things. But you've just got to kind of like trust them and jump and get to the floor. Yeah. Because there's like you said, there's so much in here that when you feel like you're getting to a point with it that it's starting to kind of, I don't know, make a little bit of sense, something comes out of left field that just throws you off. And you're like, I have no idea now what this is about. Because it's really two films into one. We have the thief's journey up until he meets the alchemist. And then we have the alchemist kind of getting the people together and taking them on the journey to the Holy Mountain. Yeah. So the first part feels so different than the second. Yeah. But the imagery is just insane. I mean, when he climbs the phallic building and he's running through the room that is like the rainbow, I'm like, oh my God, this is beautiful. Like the production design is top notch. Yeah. I can't believe that this is not, a higher budgeted film. With some of the images that they managed to pull together and some of the there's the amount of people in this film in terms of the extras. When there's people in the factory, it's not just like a corner of it that that it's just we're being manipulated by the camera angles. We get these long sweeping shots that are like hundreds of workers, all dressed the same, doing the same thing. Yeah, and I'm like, this is an incredible production.
Yeah. I was thinking that the second time I watched it, I was paying more attention to just how many people were in it, and I was like, man, he got a lot of people. Like, how did he do that? Yeah. And I don't know what the budget was, but John Lennon funded the movie.
Yeah, I think it was the highest budgeted film from Mexico. I think. Yeah. Ever at this point, but still, compared to Hollywood films and stuff like that, it's still I think it was 1.6 million. Yeah, maybe. But compared to the budgets of Hollywood films that were in the 70s, 20, 30, 40 million. Yeah.
It's still, I mean, it was still more money 50 years ago, I guess, too, though, But, and then most of the people in the movie probably aren't getting paid. All the extras probably aren't getting paid much. Yeah. Money goes a lot further in Mexico, too.
The good thing about a film like this is you don't need a star, though. Yeah. It works better because I did read, I don't know if I'm going to steal some of your...
No, go ahead.
But I did read that George Harrison was, potentially going to play the thief. Yeah.
And he kind of looks like George Harrison.
He does. Yeah, it would have been a really good role. Yeah. Would have been really good to see him in that role. But I think that it may have ruined it a little bit because instead of an actor being the main point of focus, it's the environment and the filmmaking that is the focus. Yeah. So, the characters are just the characters are just I don't really care about this journey that much. I just care about the visuals and kind of what is being presented to me.
Yeah, because with an actor that or a figure that the whole time you would have been where are we going next, George Harrison? Instead of
how is your character growing, George?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, part of me does wish I could see what it would have looked like with George Harrison, but
there's got to be some kind of film test somewhere of him acting out the scene, just something.
Yeah. But I mean, like you said, it becomes It's almost like the movie ascends itself. I mean, I guess it does in the end.
Yeah.
You know, where they become self-aware.
Yeah. I had to rewind. When I got to the end, I was like, wait, what? What just happened? You know?
Yeah. Yeah, it was interesting watching that scene again. It's just so, like I said, it's just so much going on in the movie. It was the first time I watched it, it was hard to keep track of where we were in the as far as in the story goes. But like that, the whole journey to the mountain was a lot more interesting the second time because you get like the shots of all the different people that are in the group, and then cutting to like, it's like cutting to what they're seeing, you know. It's like cutting to like the whatever's in their mind that they need to let go of, or they're like shedding themselves of. It's like really interesting. But yeah, when he was climbing up the wall, that was kind of terrifying. I was like, don't fall.
Yeah, there's there's, like I said, there's points in here that just as you're feeling comfortable, it starts to make you feel a little bit sick.
Yes.
Like him climbing the wall, the fermenting excrement, the real dogfight that happens at the end.
Yeah.
That is very like, oh no. You know.
Yeah.
There's like these, and it's like Pink Flamingos, as you said, it's pushing you as a viewer to the extreme.
Yeah.
It's like, what can I handle like from this? And I think that going into it blind, as we both did, works so much better than knowing anything about it.
Yeah.
Because it takes you back to being a cinema goer, maybe being at a festival, and it just starting and you being like, I have no idea what this is, and just being absolutely like transported to somewhere else.
Yeah.
I mean, when you said The Holy Mountain, there's a German film called The Holy Mountain from 1926, co-directed and starring Leni Riefenstahl, who ended up becoming a propaganda filmmaker for the Nazis. And I feel like both of these films give you that feeling of unease when you're watching it.
Yeah.
you're just a little bit like, oh no.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Yeah, I mean, and there's so much nudity as well. Everybody's naked at every opportunity.
Yeah, there's so much nudity.
Yeah.
And it's not Hollywood nudity either.
No. Yeah.
Just washing that butthole. Let's get a shot of that. Apparently that was the reason George Harrison didn't want to do it. He was like,
I can't imagine. Can you imagine like the Beatlemania Beatles fans going to see this because George Harrison's in it, and then seeing that?
Yeah, I can't. I cannot imagine.
No, as even now, if I'd seen that, I'd been like, "Oh my god!"
It with the amount of nudity that's in it, it's still kind of funny that like Pink Flamingos still has more butthole.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't get any more butthole than Pink Flamingos.
No, he did it. He went to the top and just, yeah.
You can't climb that holy mountain.
Yeah. Oh God. Holy in a different sense.
Yeah. A whistling hole. The scene where he's like climbing through the tunnel, like when he first gets into the top of the building, I was like, where's the James Bond theme? Somebody needs to cut this together. Like it reminded me, it's just like anybody in just like a tunnel. It's like James Bond.
Yeah.
It's like this naked Jesus.
Oh, naked Jesus.
I might have to do that.
Yeah.
For TikTok.
You should
TikTok fans out there. Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, there's so many scenes. Like I really liked the crucifix, that whole sequence where like, well, he's like, it's still early on in the movie. He's like got his friend, the small man with no arms or legs, and then he like meets up with the guards, and they're like, drink, drink, drink. I thought maybe this movie wasn't gonna have any dialogue, but then obviously as it goes on, there's a lot more.
Yeah. But
it goes for a while without any dialogue, and and then these guys are like, drink, drink. And the guy drinks until he passes out, and then the friend goes off crying. And then they start making a mold. Like, they put him out like Christ.
Yeah.
They bring out this, like, pig that, like, some of the things in this movie, it's like when you look at them, it's like not, it's like whatever they're pulling out of the pig, it doesn't really look that disgusting, but the way they present it looks absolutely disgusting.
Yeah.
There's so many things like that, like the wart on his neck that they cut open and like blue paint comes out.
Yeah.
It's like so unrealistic, but somehow it's absolutely disgusting.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, they make this Christ mold out of him, and then he wakes up and there's all these molds. Like, there was something about that I mean, it's obviously saying a lot about like the commercialization of religion.
Yeah. And how he's just like thrown in with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then I love the part where he opens something up or like pulls the blanket off or something like that, and it like the Pope. It's like the Pope.
Yeah,
it's like
little, like bed. Yeah,
yeah, in a little bed, like cuddling the crucifix, and he's got like sunglasses on.
Yeah.
And then he doesn't have really any dialogue. He's just like, "Rah, rah, 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 rah."
Yeah,
like that was probably one of my favorite bits. It was just like that imagery. It just got me.
Yeah, I mean, favorite bits. Oh dear. Like I said, I really like the climb up the building and then the journey through to the alchemist. Mm-hmm. I like the kind of the rainbow and the colors and everything in there. There's just so much in here that just feels like you've never seen it before.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Or that we're not supposed to see, I guess is a better way to put it.
Yeah. All the different, well, there's like the whole tarot sequence, which is, it's really interesting. Like tarot, I don't know what I think about tarot. You know, it's like for the people that like are really into it, like I don't disbelieve them. You know what I mean? It's like I think I don't know enough to like say, oh, that's false.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I know Jodorowsky he's a tarot reader. Like he'll read people and stuff. And I think he did a tarot reading with Aronofsky in like one of their interviews. It was like right before Mother came out, which, speaking of Mother, you can kind of see like where Aronofsky gets his influences from.
Yeah.
Like you can see that he got influences from Jodorowsky. But one of the sequences that really, I don't know, made me laugh. Well, there's obviously several. Which one is it? Berg of Uranus. My name is Berg. I'm from Uranus. Like that whole sequence was like, it's weird because the movie is like we said, it's saying a lot, it's doing a lot, but it's also trying to be funny. Yeah, it is.
Times, there's points in there. I mean, I did laugh a few times at certain things, and you know, it's kind of things are presented in this ridiculous fashion, I think, to get that reaction. You know, it's like John Ward. It's like everything is dialed up to the point where you can't help but laugh at it.
Yeah, because
it feels so different to what we're used to.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and there's things in here that feel exactly the same way. Like I mentioned with the fermenting shit, it's like it happens and you're like, oh, that's gross. And then you watch it happen, you're just like, this is insane. Like I can't help but like smile at how ridiculous this is that he's in like this big kind of siphon.
Yeah.
While they're just like boiling his crap down to like coal. Mm-hmm. And he's just inhaling the fumes. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm not sure what that was all about. That's a sequence I'm like, what does this mean?
Yeah. I mean, I could try. It's probably going to be wrong. I'm not going to try and like, take a stab. Yeah, I was like, okay, this is the visuals that we're going for.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah.
There's like one sequence where they're like making war toys for children, or just like war toys. I don't know. There's one where she said that she made them for children, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
But one of the lines was just like, she was like, we manufacture hypersexed brown native vampires. I was like, bro, what?
Yeah.
And then there's like all the different weaponry. There's like one where there's like all the different weaponry that are instruments, like the guitar gun and like that stuff. But then there's also like the gun for different religions. Like there's the Jewish gun, and there's like Buddhist, and there's a Christian one. It's like the crucifix with like the gun on it. I really liked that stuff because it was like, because it's like, it to me it feels like warfare and religion, and like I guess people can take anything too far, and sometimes they take religion too far, sometimes they take warfare too far. War becomes their religion, or like weapons become their religion. They take those too far, and it feels like accurate to the way that I see like people who are obsessed with guns or something, Yeah. It's like, I mean, a gun is a tool, It's like, but like, are you really going to like caress it and like sleep with it, and like all the conversations you have are just about it, and like that's all you've got in your life is your gun or your guns, You
need to watch Blue Steel.
Yeah. Yeah, I do. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it's like, I think, I don't know, man. It's like, this was a really great watch. I don't know how soon I'll go back to it.
Yeah. I think I'm exactly the same as you. I think that the experience I had while watching it was unlike anything that any other film that I've kind of gone through recently.
Yeah.
But on the same token, I'm like, I don't know if I enjoyed it.
Exactly, yeah.
Like I know a lot of people just love this movie, and that's fine. But I'm like, I just don't. For me, and I've said this before on the show, a 5-star film is a film that I could put on any time and watch it through.
Yeah.
And be like, cool. This is not that. I think it would take a lot for me to be like, okay, I'm going to watch The Holy Mountain again.
Yeah.
Because I've experienced it, and I'm like, cool. I've come out the other side and been like, wow, that's insanely beautiful and different and like unlike anything I've ever seen before. But I'm not ready to take that trip again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and it's like, but it's also like that with a psychedelic drug. It's like, it's not something you can just take and then go to work.
Yeah. Yeah.
You've got to be ready to have an experience and to work on some inner demons,
Yeah. And then obviously the last few lines of the film, he gathers, the planets around a table. You think that the alchemist is going to deliver like the final words of wisdom. And he's like, this is not reality, this is a film. And then he talks to the camera, he's like, zoom back. And we zoom back and see like the whole crew. And he's like, okay, we've got to go back to real life now.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay. But I mean, again, like after our conversation, is that a comment on religion?
I think it's, well, maybe. But I think it mostly probably has to do with the fact that the filmmakers, I mean, Jodorowsky, like, obviously directed it. He did a lot of stuff. He's in the movie. He plays the alchemist. He's wearing a lot of different hats in the movie.
Big hats.
Yeah, big hats, yes. And big shoes, and sometimes nothing at all. But like, I think, make the process of making the movie was like their own spiritual journey.
Yeah.
And that was just how it ended. I mean, him and his wife spent an entire week without sleep before making the film as well.
Yeah.
Which also was a part of, like, yeah, it's just a part of the spiritual journey that they decided to undergo in making this film. And I don't know how much influence John Lennon had on their process, but I'm sure like this was something where Jodorowsky just had a lot more freedom to go on that journey.
Yeah.
To let the film become whatever it needed to become. I don't know how much was on the page beforehand,
Yeah, because I know that he took like the main, like the people who played the planets, and kind of he'd live with them for like a week, or like they went camping for a week or something before they started shooting.
Yeah, I think
just to like really,
yeah,
like get to know each other, and it did have that vibe of like when you're sleep deprived, everything has this like heightened sense of like everything just feels heightened. There's things are larger than life. It just seems a bit weird. And then there's also that feeling of them really trusting each other. To be an actor in this film, you need to really trust what he's doing. Yeah. And be like, okay, I'll do it. Yeah. And, you feel that from every person in it. Yeah. So.
Yeah, he's a very interesting filmmaker. I mean, he's still someone that's very new to my radar, so I've only briefly looked up him and, his work and other things he's done, but he seems like kind of like a spiritual healer kind of person. The people that gravitate towards him, he really helps get through things. Like he does tarot, but he also does like I don't even know how to describe it, other like spiritual healing things. Yeah. One of his films that he came out with recently, I gotta look it up. It's like the mystical psychomagic, a healing art, and it's like it follows him around as he's like performing these like spiritual healing things.
Oh, that's cool.
And that was a movie that Alamo Drafthouse put out during the pandemic as a part of their
nice.
Alamo at home or whatever. Yeah. They did the whole thing with that. So it's one that I'm probably going to check out. It looks really interesting. I would like to check out his other work as well. El Topo is also one that a lot of people talk about, and the one that he made before this.
I have heard of that before.
I think John Lennon saw it, and that was when he was like wanted to meet him and fund his next movie. But yeah, there's so much in this movie that we could talk about as far as imagery and meanings and But yeah, I think we've probably gone as far as we can go with it for now.
Yeah, I agree.
Do you want to guess what we rated it on Letterboxd?
I definitely do. I'm going to say you rated it 3.5.
All right. If you think that I rated it 3.5, I'm going to say that you rated it 3.
You are correct. I did rate it 3.
Cheated a little bit.
Yeah.
Use psychomagic on you.
What did you rate it?
I think this movie's out of 4.
Okay, cool.
I have a lot of respect for this movie right now. Because like I said, I think mainly because I've never seen anything like it, and it made me look at film differently. And I think it takes a real genius film to do that.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Like you said, I think, I was swept up in it, and I did like go along for the trip. but I came out of it feeling a bit nauseated.
Yeah,
So
it happens.
yeah. Yeah.
But also, again, listeners, like, I would love to have some conversations about this film and like, what's the next Jodorowsky film that we should watch?
Yeah. Is this a bad place to start? Is this the best place to start? Should we have been like, dunked in a little bit before jumping headlong?
I don't think. I feel like it was a good place to start. I feel like
Yeah.
It's.
And if it's not a good place to start, it'll be a good place to go back to.
Yeah. Well, I am dying to know what we're watching next week. What are we watching?
So am I, because I have not made a decision.
Oh.
But I've been thinking a lot recently, and I think the Point Break episode that we did was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Because I think it was a film that we both would not have picked.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do the same thing again, Brandon. I'm going to have you pick a year, and then the first film on that list that I have not seen is going to be next week's show.
So many years to choose from. What about 1845?
We are going to be looking at a photograph.
I don't know. 1945.
Ooh. 1945. Here we go. We are going to be watching Rome Open City, directed by Roberto Rossellini.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah. Wow.
He's a good filmmaker.
He is. Yeah. It's the second most popular film of 1945.
Oh, nice.
And I haven't seen it. So next week we'll be talking about Rome Open City from 1945.
Heck yeah. All right. Well, that'll be next week, everyone. And I guess it's the end of the show.
Say it ain't so.
But we are around other places like Twitter and Instagram and TikTok. There's conversations going on. So go find us. Send us a message at Film Church Radio on all the social media channels, or you can find us individually on our Letterboxd accounts. I am at Selman Scope and Lewis is at Walker Lewis 3007. And there you can see what we've been watching on a daily basis. And it's fun. You can also comment on our reviews.
Yeah.
Again, thank you for being here. And we hope to see you next Sunday for more Film Church Radio. The only thing left to say is, we began in a fairy tale and we came to life. But is this life reality? No. It is a film church. This is a speaker.
We are Images, Dreams, podcasts. We must not stay here. Prisoners, we shall break the illusion. This is Maya. Goodbye to the holy mountain. Real life awaits us.
Amen.
Amen.